We have had, we took Monday off, and we've had a couple of really good days of preparation. The guys have a lot of energy. They're excited to play, and they're locked in. And I think that's the most important thing you can ask of your team. And they know how good Minnesota is. They know how good they have been. I don't think our guys get caught up in anything on the outside with that other than what they see on film, and they really trust in what we tell them, and what we see as a team in this league that can easily be 2-2, and with a couple other bounces be 3-1. And you've got a national championship coach over there with an outstanding staff, and you've got a lot of players that have been through it, and some other guys that are relatively new, but they look really good to us. Rodney Williams is playing at a high level. He's an improved player. They've got different guards that can do different things. Certainly Ralph Sampson is more than capable of hurting you from the inside and the outside. And we fully expect that they're going to come and play like their hair is on fire. And we've got to do the same thing. We have to do the absolute same thing. That's when we're at our best. And there's really no room for error in this league. If you don't have effort and you don't have great energy, and your level of execution and awareness and all those things are not at a high level, it can be a tough night. And we've got to make sure that we continue to stay locked in the way that we have. But these guys have done that, and they continue to move forward. And we've had the last couple of days where we could really lock into not only game planning, but at the same time trying to work on some of the things that we felt needed to be improved upon or might be slipping a little bit. And at the same time keep them really confident with shooting the ball and working in those areas. So we're excited to play.
They've had time to adjust, but how are they different without Mbakwe?
Well, I think again you're not only taking a great player out, but you're taking a double guy that is a lot more than 10 and 10 at any given time, and he commands a double team. So I haven't spent as much time watching what they played like before him, but from knowing their team Trevor was a very underrated passer, and I think what's happening now is with what they're doing without him, it seems like is they're cutting, and they're doing a lot more basket cutting, curl cutting, things like that more than what they were. Their penetration is still really good. I think the fact that Joe Coleman, and we've always thought he was a good player back in high school, and his brother was an outstanding player there, he brings another dimension to them. And they're a very capable team. There's no question about it. And again, when you watch the games, you see how close they've been. Even against Purdue, they had a tough first half, but they came back in the game. So still with them, you're still going to start with how are you going to handle their pressure defensively, and you have to keep them off the backboards. And it's always been that way with Minnesota. And even with Trevor out, I don't think they're much different than that. You still have to be very aware. I mean, Rodney Williams, inch for inch, is as good as anybody we're going to face athletically. And his first step, and now he's added that burst to his driving game. And so that's where you look at him and you see just a ton of improvement.
We talked about your own team with the 47% three-point shooting compared to 34 last year. What's the big difference there?
Well, and again, we haven't spent a lot of time looking at last year. I wasn't even aware that was the number. I think we've got, for the most part, 5 guys on the court that you have to guard. Our penetration is better. Our spacing is better. I don't think there's any question that Cody brings more to the table in so many ways, but especially with the ability to pass, and he has very good vision. And Christian has improved tremendously in his ability to see and make plays. And I think our guys are better shooters. I think it shows up. Obviously, it shows up with Christian, and Verdell is a better shooter. Jordan and Matt continue to get a quicker release, and they can do more than just shoot threes. So I think when your three-point shooters can put it on the ground and create for somebody else, that's going to make your three-point shooting that much better. And when your forwards can step out and they have to honor them beyond the line, that's going to make it easier for everybody else. Then we're a product of good ball movement. If the ball doesn't move, then we're not going to shoot at a high rate.
I guess the obligatory will status and what he did.
You want to answer it for me? He's making progress. He really is. He's making progress. He's getting closer. And It's still going to be a day-to-day thing.
Is it a case where now he needs to get back into basketball shape too?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But he's getting closer to that all the time. He's had a solid week of improvement, but again, it's just something that we'll just kind of judge day by day.
Has he hit the practice floor at all at any point?
He has. He has.
When, if I could ask him?
This week. This week was better. And the first time he was really on the court would have been this past weekend to shoot. But I think Sunday, he shot some Saturday night, but Sunday was really the first day that, you know, he'd gone out and done anything else really with the team other than some shooting Saturday night.
Verdell's kind of been more selective with his shots this year. Is that kind of his role changing, or is that just him being more mature with the ball?
I think it's everything. I think it's building on his role, to be honest with you, because he's a much better defensive player. He's getting even better off the pick and roll. It's having you know, more versatile guys around him, better players, better shooters around him. It's having an absolute desire to win, and knowing that we're good enough to do that. And so I think that when you have that, he's improved in so many areas, and I think one thing that's key to us is shot selection is really good, but his ability to be ready to shoot is even better, because now he's the beneficiary of some passes coming back to him. So I think all of those things help. But I think that when he can get out in transition, he's just like everybody else. When we create a turnover, when we get a stop and he can get out and play, it makes it that much better. And we've got more and more guys that can create offense from defense, and that helps him.
What's been the biggest difference with Matt defensively this year? It seems that he's been much stronger.
I think strength is a little bit. I think intent. Again, I don't use that word with Verdell, but I think it's the same thing with him. I think he's got some pride in the fact that people try to game plan against him when he's in the game. But I think he's shown some really good boxing in the 50-50 game, when it's a loose ball and he's diving on the floor to get that ball, or you know, he's trying to rip it away from somebody. I think if I had to say one thing, he's more aware defensively, with help side and being able to get off his man and then get back, those type of things. And at the same time, he's got to continue to work at it every day, and he gets pushed just like everybody else does on that, because we knew going into the season that if you're a situational player, it's going to be very, very hard to get minutes. So his defense has improved. His ability to get the shot off even quicker has improved, in his shot fake. So, like, you want to run at him, go ahead. I mean, he's going to shot fake. You take a dribble and either take the shot or make another pass. And I think that makes him that much more valuable.
How important was that fact that he developed that way, especially with Will out?
Oh, I think it was really, really good. I think down the road now, who knows how it'll be short term when Will comes back, because you got to work a guy back into the situation. But I think down the road, there's no question that this can help us. It can help our depth, and it certainly hasn't. It hasn't been great for Will to be out, and it hasn't. I wouldn't say made our team better in the short term, even though we've been winning games for the most part. But I think in the long term, it could definitely help us.
I guess elaborate on that.
Going back to the three-point shooting.
What?
Going back to the three-point shooting, Jordy's leading the country in three-point shooting. Just your thoughts on how well he shot it, kind of why he's been that good?
Well, again, he's always been an excellent shooter, but again, he's got other things besides shooting threes. And I think when you're known, or when they can guard you for doing one thing, it limits that one thing. But because he can get to the rim, because he's getting better off pick and roll, he hit 2 threes the other day off pick and rolls. I mean, that's important stuff. That's stuff that he wasn't always doing in the past. He can screen and then receive a screen. There's so many different ways for him to score. And again, he doesn't just have to have the ball in his hands to get shots off. But I think he's ready to shoot. He doesn't have to force shots. We've got other players on the court that can make shots. So when we utilize the entire front court, and we get our movement, whether through spacing or through screening, and whether we get our shots off screens or drive and kick or inside outside of the post, he's doing an excellent job of making the next pass. Well, that becomes contagious, and then that next pass a lot of times ends up with him. Go ahead, Dustin.
Just elaborating on what you said just about the depth and what you've kind of been able to learn, I guess. I mean, do you feel like you've What do you feel like you've learned about the guys sort of after Will on the bench in terms of what you can do with them going forward, in terms of what kind of players they are, and what do you think these situations have done for those
What's
guys?
given us more there's more things that we can look for in a game. We can say, okay, when we put this lineup together, this really works for us. And that's where some of the numbers of the plus minus have really helped with certain lineups. So now you can almost look for that to try to put that into the game somewhere. And so that helps. We're still not as consistent as we need to be because there's been just a little bit too much up and down, sometimes whether we're home, whether we're on the road, week to week. So you want that, but Remy's developing at a really good rate. There's no question about that. Matt is playing with great confidence. And again, we have confidence in him because of the defensive side of the ball. And Tom and Derek have given us really good moments. So I think that just, what happens is we probably weren't able to switch as much. And I know I said this, I think I said this last week, I've learned that when you take somebody out, you better get away real quick from hoping that they fill that role and figure out exactly how they're going to fill the role they can fill. So now, as we move forward, that gives us that much more versatility, especially defensively, but then offensively. Because now, maybe where Matt and Will weren't together on the court as much, or maybe where Remy wasn't on the court as much with Jordan and Riddell, or Jordan and Vic, well, now you can do that during the game. There's so many different ways that you can play based on how the game is going. But at the same time, you've got guys that have done it in high-level situations in this league. They've had some success with it. They've had the success on the defensive end. You know, we weren't at a point where we're playing offense-defense with certain guys off the bench, which hasn't always been the case. So I think those things help our depth moving forward because as you've seen, again, I mean, there's foul issues. There's, you know, we've definitely had some 2 and 3 foul situations where we have to go extended minutes with combinations that have been good for us on the bench, and now you don't worry about it as much.
It's only 4 games, but 49% on the defensive field goal is a little bit high. Is that a worry for you right now?
Everything as a coach, I don't know if it's what you would call it a worry, but you're always trying to get it better. There's no question. We can shoot the ball better, we can defend shooting better. And it's just the way that it is. I mean, I think the moment that you start thinking something is really good for you is pretty quick you're going to lose it, or it's going to go downhill. But there's no question that our field goal percentage defense can get better, can get a lot better. And some of that we've really tried to address this week. And there's a lot of aspects of it. There's technique, there's communication, there's positioning, there's how we play certain plays, there's how we come out of timeouts. There's a lot of things that add to that. But the bottom line is it's having a unified defensive front where guys understand that they have to get better at it. And I think this team does.
Tom,
Go ahead, Terry, then I'll come back.
with Matt's emergence of late, I mean, is there a chance he comes back next year?
We're just focused on, right now with this. I mean, nobody's, the only time I think about next year is if I go see a recruit play, like last night. So that's it. We just stay totally locked on what we're doing.
But I mean, are those discussions you have at the end of the year maybe?
And we'll see what happens at the end of the year. We'll see what happens then.
Can you talk to me, Coach, a little bit about Cody's intelligence on the court, how he demonstrates that?
Well, I think it plays itself out on both ends of the floor. I mean, he's a very intelligent young man, and he's got obviously he's got the personality, he's got the book smarts, he's got the social skills, but he just transfers all that to the court, and he can really pick up situations pretty quick. He absorbs what you're trying to get across to him really quick. He can make adjustments inside of the game, which I think is good. And anytime you give him something and he knows that it needs to be applied, he spends that time doing it. But he's very aware on the court. And he's aware on the defensive end, he's aware on the offensive end. And at the same time, we've spent as much time with him trying to improve him in certain areas defensively this week as we have with anybody else. And I have no doubt that he'll pick that up and continue to get better at it.
Coach, talking about Matt, I know you talked about him before, what he brings for you guys off the bench, but to have a guy that can take over off the bench, how important is that?
Well, we're not looking at anybody. I don't think we talk in terms of taking over. I think when you got a team that's moving the ball the way that we move it, we don't view it like that. But I think his shooting, it energizes the team. There's no doubt about that. And I think we see it in practice, and I think if you're watching it, you see it in games. If you're really watching it close, especially the bench, they're really, really cheering and trying to help each other. And it gets so loud in the building that maybe it's hard to pick that up. But here's a guy that he wants to help his teammates pick things up in practice, and they're doing the same thing for him when he's in games. We just need the communication to be a little bit more continuous, a little bit louder. But he's as big a part as any in that, because when he gets into the game, that's going to change the defensive mindset, so to speak. You've got to know where he's at. You've got a lot of people that are aware of him. And the more that he can create for others based on a shot fake, dribble and a pass, the more that he can screen to get somebody open, and in turn we screen for him, that just makes us that much more valuable.
Would you say that his defense has also kind of helped him get into a flow of a game?
Absolutely. It's helped him stay on the court. Absolutely. That's the biggest area. And we'll see it. I mean, there's teams that it happens. They have things that they go to when he's in the game, and we have other guys that they go to, and just like we do. There's certain players we want to see in a game, and we're going to attack that. So that's just part of the strategy of the game. But he takes that personal, and he's really trying to build on that. So his improvement level is high. He's getting better. He can get better. And he's worked extremely hard. He's never not worked hard. But what he's done is he's adjusted to the speed of the game a little bit, with his shot release, with his range. His range has always been good, but his stepping into it and being ready to shoot haven't always been as good. He can back up to midcourt, but getting it off as quick, that's a different story. Those are the areas where he's really improved upon.
You've talked about turnovers being kind of an issue, especially lately. How do you go about improving that kind of in the mid-season, and what do you work on specifically to?
5-on-7. Sometimes much more physical play from the team that's given us that look, that preparation. The guys that are doing that. There's breakdown drills that we'll do where we're trying to. There's so many different things that we do, but the bottom line is, I think you're constantly talking to them about the next pass, being strong with the ball. Getting the dribble out in front of them. What you're not saying don't turn it over. You're saying, push the dribble out, or be strong with the ball. Get the ball and you get the ball loaded right away. Things like that. You're trying to give them positive reinforcement, but at the same time, when we watch the film, I think that there's two kinds of turnovers. There's an aggressive turnover, and there's a turnover where we're indecisive, where we're not strong with the ball, and soft is usually the term we use in there. So you're trying to get those corrected as much as possible. A lot of times that's mindset. We don't want guys to not be aggressive and to not be on the attack. We want them to make good decisions. We want them to be strong with the ball. So we keep making sure that we're trying to build on that in practice, show it in video, and at the same time make sure that they're thinking about that, when they're away from here, when they're aware of that.
One more Matt question. He always talks about getting lost in the game. I mean,
he stole that from Tim Buckley. That's Tim Buckley's phrase.
But I mean, it seems like that's been a big part of his success recently. You agree?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, yes, because they know he's there though. See, we're running him off. We're running him. There's more plays, and what you do is you try to sneak him in there a little bit sometimes with some of the sets. We had that happen in the Michigan game, and in the same play in the Michigan State game where he set a screen, and the guy comes off and it's a misdirection, and he pops a three. More and more people are aware of that. So the more that happens, and the more he's got to get lost in the game. But again, it's easier for him to be in one-on-one coverage or to have it be a long closeout situation because we're moving the ball better, we're driving the ball better, and you have to guard these guys in a lot of different areas. The Christian's versatility has helped everybody on this team. It's helped Christian more than anybody else. I mean, when you start, but Christian can score so many different ways right now, and so again, when you've got to look at that and you've got a forward that can play that way, well, all of a sudden the ball gets swung one more time. There's Matt Ross standing in the corner. You can't hug up on a guy right now and let Christian take his matchup, because he's going to do it, so it's kind of both. It's especially in transition, you get lost in the game more in transition, but it's hard to get lost in it when you're in a half-court situation and it's a shot clock type of thing. But I think sometimes his range catches people by surprise. And you know what? When they adjust to his range now, he'll just back it up a little more. Seriously, not many guys can do that, but he can. Anybody else? All right.
Thanks.